So this is Stun Gopher. I'm gonna today show you guys how to build a duo lift kit, 4.5-inch lift kit. Flies, because I'm dirty from the last lift kit. I just finished doing the other Jeep, 88 black Jeep Cherokee. Now I'm gonna be doing again an 88 Jeep Cherokee. This is a Laurado, different style of diffs. I have done a lift kit before, so starting off, how to build a duo lift kit is you pull it into any spot. Look at me, I'm actually able to do it in my driveway on top of gravel. Now what I'm going to do, starting off, you pull the vehicle in the driveway. Next part you do is you disconnect the battery cable because you don't need that power anymore. Then after you got that set up, then you know pretty much underneath the hood you're good right now. You don't have to worry about nothing. You can close the hood and we'll go from there, guys. So, next part, what we're going to start off for the first part of this video will be the back end. We'll be replacing the springs, taking the springs fully out and putting new ones in. We're going to keep the same shackles on the back. We're going to be changing the back brake lines, extension brake lines, putting the new U-bolts in. You always want to put new U-bolts in on your diff. Never reuse, because that's the chance of actually breaking and having your diff fall off on the highway, and you don't want that. So always replace it. It's not that costly to build to buy U-bolts. They come in the kit. If they don't, go and get some. They're Jeeps. You can go down to a trailer place and build to get the U-bolts from there. So it's not a hard thing to replace. The next part that I have to say is, okay, when we're lifting here, I'm going to be lifting it on the ground, the gravel here, so I'm going to actually have plates that are on the ground to be able to hold the vehicle up. The plates keep the jack stands level, so then the vehicle will not fall. You really want to make sure when you're jacking up the vehicle you know what you're doing. I'm only teaching people this, how to build a lift kit, and you need to still have your common sense and know how to build a do-it-yourself. I'm not no babysitter. I'm just showing you guys how to build to do this, and if you want to build, leave comments, tell me if some ideas that I'm doing wrong, or some ideas you think I can do better, or some things you just don't understand. So I guess we'll start. Alrighty, so now we're at the back of the Jeep. What you gotta do is you gotta get a nice jack. You want a decent jack, not a half jack. You want the full stable jack, so it ain't gonna go nowhere on you, especially if you're on the gravel. Alright, so all you got to do first off is actually bring the jack up. Do not lift the vehicle up whatsoever yet. See, that's all you want to do. It's just enough so then it's touching it, so then you get the idea. Okay, so next part, what we're going to do here is we are going to take and get those plates, get the jack stands, and we're going to put it underneath. I'll show you guys afterwards. So put jack stands underneath, lift it up. Also for me, because of my ground so unstable, I use tires to build to hold up the vehicle. Just for the back end, because how high the lift, I don't trust my ground. It's right now still sobby wet outside. Sobby wet. Anyways, but it's still wet outside, so I have to use some wider stands, and tires work awesome with the rims on them. So I'll stick that underneath, and then after I have it all showed, you guys can see. I'll just take you guys off here, and we'll give you a little peek. This is the bottom end of this Jeep. So, as you see, I have that there. Now your next job will be to lift it up, get the jack stands first. Once you actually get the jack stands, put the jack stands underneath before you lift up. Also, what I'm going to do is I am going to crank the tires loose so then the actual nuts are loose. Unless you have an impact gun, then you can do that later. But if you don't, best idea is crank the wheels so that the wheels are loose on the back. And we'll throw some tires under here and get it up in the air. Alright, so what we did, so like I said, put stuff on jack stands and tires. Then we took the tires off. Tires are off, sitting by the side. We put a high lift on the back to help the angle so it doesn't fall. Now I'll show you guys what's all going on here. So this is the back end, as you know. Then we'll back up so you can see, but that's the Jeep. That's just about to lift it here. I have the back wheels off, the tires are underneath there, and wheels were blocked beforehand. Before you lift, make sure you block the tires. I got whatever, just a little block there. Next part, what you got to do after this is take the drive shaft off. So we'll move that in close so you can see. See the drive shaft there. You have bolts. You can see each bolt. There's 4 bolts in total on either side. All you do is unbolt those. Make sure you use the right tool because they're small and you don't want to round those off. Then afterwards you pull the drive shaft out. Then afterwards, once we pull the drive shaft out, what we will do, we also disconnect those lines there. Those are your brake lines. Either side, you're going to have to disconnect either side there out of. You try to use an actual wrench. The wrench will work. Then if the wrench doesn't work and it rounds it off, try using vice grips, and more chances. Just be careful not to break a brake line, because then you'll have to replace it. This actual hose here I will be replacing also for my kit. Some people replace or just throw the spot for the housing in a different place, but I'll be replacing the whole hose. I got longer ones coming for the kit. Now after I also do that, what I will also be doing is on the back here you can see the shock and the shock bolt. Those bolts, they're a little bit hard. Grease them down, lubricate them, and take those off. Now if you notice, I also have the unibody lifted here with the tires on either side, so the unibody is actually lifted. Now plus I also have a jack right here holding up the differential. I also have jack stands here, plus you've seen the high lift. The high lift is to help the Jeep from not falling also. Now like I said, take off these shock bolts, and then after you take off your shock bolts, you'll be wanting to take off those bolts up there. Now those bolts up there sometimes can be seized. What you want to do is just either bang them out if they're the originals, put new bolts in, otherwise just pull those bolts off. If you can't get them off, you can also cut them off. Be careful, this is a gas tank. Keep the grinding to a minimum. Make sure you don't smell gas if you're going to do any grinding. So, cool part. Next after that, we'll be able to show you guys once everything's taken off what it looks like. Also, to let you guys know, you guys can totally throw out this sway bar. It is bolted up using your U-bolts, and we'll be taking that off later, and also those bolts there, and you can just toss that right out. No need of that. If you actually have your rubbers, you can keep that on. Why not? The bump stops are always good to keep on. Then that's pretty much the back that we'll show you, and then I'll be back to be able to show you actually the front bolt here and the rear bolt and the upper shackle. We'll be taking this whole spring right out. I'm going to be replacing with a new lift spring. It's not Adelie or anything, it's the full spring job. We will be still using the old shackles and just clean them up and put them back in. Alrighty, so we'll be back once you see it all done. Alright, so we're back again, guys. Like I said, what we were going to do was going to actually show you guys how to be able to do the lift. I told you everything that I did. Now I'll show you actually it all done. Come on, guys, take you right along. Give me a second, take the camera out. Alright, so what I did yesterday was telling you guys about taking right away, make sure the blocks, but now we took the brake line apart, told you guys about that part there. So I had to use vice grips on either side. There's here and here and there has to be disconnected, and then for this piece here there's a bolt on top and the washer. Don't lose that bolt and washer. Also you have your hose airline for your diff, if you can see that there. That's right beside it. You can disconnect that. Then the next thing also I did was take that drive shaft off. As you can see, there is no drive shaft. There's 4 bolts. Took those out, drive shaft pulls out, and done deal. You also want to throw a bucket underneath when you're pulling these brake lines apart, because there's going to be some brake fluid to come out. Then after that, what you want to be able to do is you also want to have this, like I said, jacked up still, and jack stands underneath there. And then what I also did next was I unbolted the bolt from the shock right there and pulled the shock off. I had to use a pry bar also to pull that off. Up on top here, as you guys can see right there, that's where I took the top bolts out. On the other side I actually had to cut out one bolt, because if you have the originals, they'll re-bolt nice and smooth in there. If you don't, you'll just have to go to the store and get some new fresh bolts and lock washers. And then the next person that has to take it off will have to do the same thing. So, then the next part, after you get that off, then what we're going to be also tackling is taking this sway bar and tossing it totally out. The 4 bolts here, we can actually literally just take this off if we want. Either step you want to do, it doesn't matter. What I usually do is I just drop the diff right out of the way, and then I can get the leaf springs out all that way. But it doesn't actually matter which way you're going to be doing it. But I will be unbolting this from either side. You also have 2 bolts there. I'll be unbolting those 2 bolts on either side and taking that sway bar right out of here. And taking this plate off, this is a plate, you want to clean the plate afterwards. And then after taking the plate and cleaning it, you toss out the old U-bolts. Don't need the nuts as long as you get the new U-bolts and nuts, but maybe just hold on to the nuts just in case. Then after that, I will have this plate out, the diff dropped, and you'll be able to see that again. So I'll be back. You don't have to worry about the actual e-brake cables. It's okay, it'll stretch a little bit, but it'll be fine. So we'll be back. Alright, we're back. We got a little bit more done here. What will we show you here is, yeah, you guys are recording. Okay. What we did here is we took the U-bolts out and we took the sway bar and then we just drop the diff. That's it. 4 bolts, or 4 nuts on either side, so in total 8, and disconnect that, and then 2 bolts for your sway bar, and that comes out. So here, take a look. This is the diff when it comes dropped down. Make sure you just drop it down with your jack, and recheck, make sure all your lines are disconnected, like your brake lines. See, right now I still have my cable lines. It's fine for them if you're only doing a 4.5 inch lift. Now, right now you can see the U-bolts here, they're disconnected, both sides. Also here you can see right here used to be the sway bar, 2 bolts pulled out. Okay, then the next part that we're going to do is this leaf spring, is take out the leaf spring. As you can see, there's a bolt there. Be very careful when you're taking it out. Hopefully it's not rusted in there, because there is like a weld bolt or a lock bolt that holds there, but if you bang it out, then you're gonna have problems. So hopefully we'll be able to get that out nice and easy. And then same thing back here, you got a bolt there and you got another bolt there. I'm also going to take that shackle right out, because I like to take the shackle out and clean it all up and then put it back together. And same with the other side. So, alright guys, so the next thing you guys will see is that this leaf spring will be out and those 2 bolts. Alrighty, be back. What we're going to do was take the leaf springs out, the other 2 bolts, well in total 6 bolts it was, and we already took off the U-bolts. So now with those leaf springs out, I'll let you guys see what it looks like. As you can see, there's no leaf springs in there. As you can see up here, the shackle is gone. It's not there anymore. It's taken out also. Now if you look on this side here, you can see that we got that out, but now as you can see closer, there's grinding. Okay, we had problems like everybody else. Now what some people do when you have problems like I did, or anybody else, you can see here, right here, usually some people will try cutting out this spot and then cutting the leaf out and then re-welding that spot right there. But we do a different trick because we don't have a welder. We do this all home style without no welder. So if we have no welder, the trick is, some guys say don't do it, but I do it, is right here. Okay, this is a different design that I do. I'll let you see the back door. This is the doorway. You flip up the seat, you rip out the carpet just back enough so then you can see in this spot here. Now see in this spot, this is exactly right in between where that bolt sits. Now it took forever to get that bolt out of that hole. As you can see, that bolt barely fits in there. You literally had to cut both sides of that nut on either side, because I cut the bolt right out of there, and either side of that nut I had to cut off both just to get it to squeeze out of that hole, because that's as big as you can get it. That's as big as why people cut it on the bottom. But on this one, all I have to do is throw one of those little rubber patches on top of there and put the carpet back, and nobody will know the difference. And that's how I'm going to put the bolt back in there. And let's see, did I actually have the original bolt? The original bolt here would have been sitting like these. Are the bolts that come out of there. There's another rounded off one from the last Jeep. This is what it looked like when it came out from the other one. I guess we don't see that one here. I must have tossed it already. Or did I leave it in my pocket? There it is. It's in my pocket. Okay, so as you guys can see here, I literally had to cut that out on either side just to be able to get that out. I don't want to drop it in there, but you can see like it's just barely, and that's how you're going to be able to get the bolt back in there, because if not, you're going to have to cut and weld on the bottom unless your bolt comes out nice, which on the other side, this is what happens when the bolt comes out nicely. See, if you can see there, you can still see the bolt, or I mean the bolt, the nut is actually still sitting there. That's actually like a small crimp weld style, and you don't want to pretty much break that off and end up having it look like this and having a hell of a time to get it out.
because otherwise you got to cut on the bottom here and then re-weld a plate on. But you can do it the style that I did. It's longer pissing around time. You don't get it done right away. It takes a lot longer just to build to do this, but if you don't have a welder and you want to get your job done, this is how you get it done. So leaf springs are out now, as you can see, both leaf springs plus shackles. We'll show you here the leaf spring. Leaf spring comes out nicely on this side. The other side, you're gonna have to take the shackle out only yet because of this bolt sits right here. So if you have a tow package, you can't get the bolt out. You have to take the shackle out to be able to get all that out. Because we're not replacing those shackles, we're just putting them right back in. Now, also I told you about these plates. This plate you want to clean bottom and underneath, because also usually the bottom will rust out. You want to bang that off so then it's nice and flush with the new leaf springs. Now, to let you guys see another part, as you can see, I had to cut that actual leaf spring there totally right out. Alright, so we're back. I'll show you here, we found it. This is the rubber. I had to literally cut into that rubber. It smelled nasty, like burning tires. Now, this is the piece that I cut off here. As you can see, I cut it off here. Now, as the person that's trained eye knows, if you look, that actually was broken on my Jeep. So, it's kind of good that we're replacing this. And that's a broken leaf spring. It wouldn't have actually fully covered that rubber knuckle. So, you gotta cut that out, cut this piece off. There's also another little wrap around the rubber metal piece, and then there's your metal shim in there, but it's not in there, took it out. But that's the headache you gotta have with the back end of my other black Jeep. It was nice actually, the bolts came out. I had to cut the same little hole to be able to get the nut out on that side there, but this one here on the same side, it's usually the driver's side that likes to cause problems, but this is what the 4.5-inch lift is going to look like once we're done. That's the back end job that we're doing. So I guess we'll be back again. We'll tell you what's the next step, what you got to do is, okay, next step is to take this brake line, once I find it here for you guys. Okay, that brake line right there, it has a little lock clip on it. You're gonna have to put a wrench on both sides to be able to take that off. Same thing, be careful, it's a metal line behind it here. As you can see, it's a metal line, so that metal line you're gonna have to be careful not to ruin when you're taking off. And then you just pull that brake line right off and wait for the new one. So what we're doing is we're going to be waiting off for my new parts that are going to be coming in the next little while.